later. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second day of Learn JavaScript. So we're going to start off on logic. Jerry, do you want to teach conditional logic?
I can teach conditional logic. Okay, so conditionals in JavaScript are pretty much like conditionals in Python, except with the syntax difference that first of all you need parentheses around your expression after the if statement, and also that each block is like defined by braces, curly braces instead of a colon, and indent in Python. So in JavaScript, the white space doesn't matter, and all you need are the curly braces to denote a block. So this conditional logic is pretty straightforward. I guess you could do logic with if and else. So we have a Boolean variable, which is true, and so the if statement will check if that thing inside of the parentheses is true, and it'll execute the first block if it's true, otherwise it'll move on to the second block. So I guess you could just put that in the REPL. And so it'll say the Boolean is true if it's true, which is true. If it's false, it'll say the Boolean is false, or it is not true.
So what I'd recommend right now is basically the expression here is evaluated. So just put any expression. So you could start off with true, the same example as our variable before. Then we'll teach you about comparison operators, but for example, you can put 5 greater than 6, and we all know that that's false. So the output will be this Boolean is not true. So basically, if this expression here evaluates to true, then the if statement will run whatever code is contained inside its block. Then if it's not true, then it'll move on to the next statement. And in this case, it's else.
Okay.
Yeah, so why don't you all try that out? And then do you want to do a quick rundown of the comparison operators?
It's on a slide. Okay, this is just conditionals. It's how they work, but I don't think, okay. All the logic operators are the same as in Python. We have and, not, or, equals. Note that the equals has 3 equal signs. This is because in JavaScript, like the 2 equal sign equals comparison operator will work, but it's not preferred because it'll try to cast the types of the 2 things you're comparing to be the same type before checking them. So I think if you check like if 0 equals null, it'll say true. So which is why you need the 3 equal signs, because it doesn't cast any types. So it'll just evaluate if the left side is equal to the right side with no conversions at all. So you should just use the 3 equal signs. That's something to be careful of. All the other things are normal, like greater than equals to. They're all self-explanatory.
Yeah, so actually let's do a quick practice problem. So, okay, so I'll put an expression here, and then I'd like you all, don't run this program, but just kind of look at the logic and put in the chat, will the output be true or false? So, let's start off with this. So we can do true and false, and then if need be, we can do a quick, this is a quick summary of and or. So and only returns true if both things are true, or returns true if either one of them is true. So this is the and operator here. So everyone, could you type in the chat if you can? What will be the output here, true or false? Nice, we have some falses. That is correct. Now, if I change this to pipe, which is or, now what's the output going to be? True. And then if I do not false, what is the output going to be? So exclamation's not, yeah. Brandon, if you want, can you tell us why this is false? Like what's basically happening in the
It's
expression?
being negated twice, which is pretty much not being negated, so it's false.
Nice, that was a perfect explanation. So let's see, what are some other ones we can test you on? Okay. So what about this one? We have 5 equals 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 string 5. Nice. Can you tell us why this one's false, Mihir?
One's like integer, one's a string.
True. So as Jerry was explaining, the 3 equals operator does not try to change both of the types so that they're the same, then compares them. If two things are different types, then they're not the same clearly, so then it's false. We could actually see if we use this 2 equals operator, this will actually say true, because it'll first turn the string into a number, and then it'll say 5 is equal to 5. But then that can lead to really unpredictable behavior. Like for example, 0 evaluates to false, and then false is false. So then this would be true, but that's just really weird. So, and then you can clearly see, like if we just use 3 equals, this would not be the same. And that's why when you're writing your code, just pay extra attention to make sure that you're using 3 equals. Okay. And then finally, let's do something with comparisons. So actually, you know what? These will be pretty straightforward. Okay, I think you guys are all good with basic math. So, okay. Atticus, do you want to explain this example to us?
Okay, so the following example uses comparisons and logic. So first, we set a user age to 5. Then first, we check if the user age is greater than or equal to 18, which it's not. So then it goes on to the next condition. And then it checks, otherwise, is the user age greater than 16, which is not. So it goes to the else, which is the final condition. And so the result will be that it prints, you will not be able to join the military for a long time.
Yeah, that was a good explanation, Atticus. This is a good example. You can see by changing the variable value, you'll be able to access different parts of this if-else chain. So yeah, try that out yourself. And then that is the end for today. So let's go on to loops. But actually, before we go on, does anyone have any questions about conditionals? And then you can put them in the chat or ask them out loud. Okay, I think we're good, but if you have any questions later, you can always ask us then as well. Let's go on to loops. So loops are used to repeat execution of a block of code. So instead of just copy pasting it, like let's say we wanted to log something. Welcome, Adam. We're just in the middle of our lesson today. So since you came late, that's okay. We're actually recording this. So yeah, just try to follow along now, and then you can always rewatch the whole thing later. So let's say we want to, okay, nice. So yeah, if we want to console.log hi, if you wanted to log this 5 times, your first approach might be to just do this. Well, let's say you want to do this 500 times. That doesn't sound very feasible anymore. So what we can do is use a loop, which can be used to repeat execution, and they can simplify programs. There are 2 main types, for and while. Well, let's look at the most basic loop in JavaScript. So let's achieve the same thing that we did here. But there's 3 parts for this for loop. So you first need a variable, and you should declare it here because it's the first time you're using it. So you declare a variable, you could call it anything. We'll just call it I. And typically we'll set it to 0. This is the declaration here. Then the second part is the condition. So then we could say I less than 5. So we're going to say this for loop should run while I is less than 5. And then finally, the last part is like the increment. So you're saying after each iteration, what should happen to I? So we're saying I should increase by 1 with the plus plus operator. So if we console.log I, and this will help us understand the behavior. So I starts off at 0. It runs this block of code. It sees, okay, 0 is still less than 5, so it increments 1. It does that until finally, so after 4, I becomes 5. But then 5 is not less than 5, so then the for loop just starts. So if you notice, this is how we can count up to a number. Like, let's say we wanted to do 1 through 5 instead. We could do like I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to 5. We can do this. We can do the same thing as high. And as you can see, we achieve the same result. So that's basically how for loops work. They just consist of these 3 main parts. And then, yeah, so that's how we'll use them for now. Does anyone have any questions with for loops? Okay, then let's try a practice problem. But since this is new, it's okay if you don't know how to do it. Just give it your best shot, and then we'll go over the solution. So what I'd like you to do is use a combination of for loops and conditional logic. So you are going to loop from the numbers from 1 to 100, and then you're only going to print out multiples of 3 or 5. Okay, try that. So let's just quickly review. If we want to figure out if something's a multiple of a number, does anyone know which operator we could use from math?
Mod.
Mod, okay. Do you want to explain to us how that works in here?
Yeah, it just checks the remainder when divided by a number. For example, like 4 mod 31.
Perfect. So, okay, last question. So if something is a multiple of another number, like what remainder would we expect from the operation? Like, for example, if we're looking for remainders of 3, and then if we're looking for multiples of 3, and we're checking the number 6, then when we do 6 mod 3, what remainder should we expect? Which helps tell us that it's a multiple of 3. Okay, so if we do this here, we'll see it's a remainder of 0. So that's what we should look at. So basically, if you want to check if something's a multiple, like if I create a variable called num, it's equal to 4. If num mod 3 is equal to 0, then we know that it is a multiple of 3. But as you can see, the remainder, the result is 1, and 1 is not equal to 0, so it's false. But then if we change num to 3, no, not 4, okay. If we change num to 9, and then we did the same operation again, then we'll get true. So why don't you try to leverage this? So here's basically what your program should look like. It should be like a for loop on the outside, and then inside of the block of code that's inside the for loop, you should have an if statement, which you can have one branch of the if statement which checks if it is a multiple of 3. You can have like an else if afterwards that checks that if it's a multiple of 5. You can even do like check if it's a multiple of 3 or check if it's a multiple of 5 and then log something. So yeah, so why don't you spend 1 or 2 more minutes on that, and then we'll go over the solution. And then if you guys do get a solution, then you can put the link to your REPL in the chat and we can take a look at it. Okay, nice. So we have two solutions. Let's take a look at these. And this is Alex's. So we have for loop from 0 to 100, okay. And then we have if I mod 2, if the remainder of that is equal to 0, or if that's the same for 5, then you log it. So if we run it, this is good, except, yeah, actually, yeah, this is good. 0 is a multiple of 3, 100 is multiple of 5. Okay, perfect. This is a good solution. I'd say two things, Alex. So first of all, you should put spaces around your operators, like I space mod space 3. And then I think these parentheses around here are good. They make it very explicit that you have two different things that are being compared by the OR operator. But I think your code would also work without those parentheses. That's something to keep in mind. But overall, great solution. Let's look at Mihir's solution. So you
I'm
have,
just adding this. I wrote it really messy.
okay, sure. Then let's give you a second to do that. Yeah, if any, oh, Brandon, okay. Let's see Brandon's. So until, so nice, you have a variable, and then you have the for loop, and then if I, that's all good. Yeah, this looks good to me, and I like what you're doing here. So you could just change the value of this variable, and then you could get all the multiples of 3 and 5 until, let's say, 200 or 50. Okay, nice solution here. Just one more thing for spacing, like and of course all of these suggestions, like they're not, you don't have to listen to them, but what I'd recommend is put a space between your for, like the for and the if keywords, and then the first parentheses here. But yeah, nice, great job, Brandon, as well. Okay, should we take a look at your solution now, Mihir? Okay, nice. So yeah, this is
Yeah,
looking,
if you want, yeah.
yeah, this is good. I like this. I think, yeah, so wait, once again, the parentheses aren't necessary, but I think it's actually good that you put them in this situation because it makes it very clear, and that's good. You want your code to be readable. Now, this all looks good. You put spaces on your operators. Then another thing that comes down to preference, what I do is I put spaces around the equals operator and then greater than. So I would recommend stay consistent because like here you don't put spaces, but here you do. So really it matters. It's up to you to decide how you want to format your code, but I'd say stay consistent. Putting spaces makes it readable. But yeah, this is a great solution. Great job, Mihir, as well. Okay, you know what? We have a little bit of, we'll quickly go over while loops, but if you get for loops, then it should be pretty good as well. Yeah, so how while loops work is this code keeps on executing here until this condition in the while loop is false. So as long as this condition stays true, then it executes. As soon as it's false, then it doesn't. So here's a quick basic example. So let's achieve the same thing we did with the for loop, but with the while loop. So if we set I equal to 0, and then we do like while I is less than 5, we are going to console.log I. Can someone tell me what the result of this program would be?
That should be like infinite, I feel like.
Yeah, you're right. It is an infinite loop because there's no stopping point. So we want to be careful with our while loops that they don't go on forever. this condition here will ultimately become false, and then the while loop will terminate. So yeah, so if we do I++, we're incrementing I. Then we can just see I 0, 1, 2, 3. And then let's see why there's an extra 4 here. So then I is 4, then I becomes 5. Well, I is less than, oh, wait. I'm gonna see if I move this console.log after. If we first increment it. Oh, okay. So it's, okay, if we increment before, then that's why it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we run it like this, so let's see, let's go through this. So first I is 0. So then it's logged. Now I becomes 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is still less than 5. Oh, okay, so here's what's happening. So, okay, we have 4, right? So we're going to log 4, then we're going to increment it. So now I is 5. Actually, I'm very confused. Jerry, do you know why there's 2 4s here?
Wait a minute. Can you reload REPL?
Yeah, I think like I had run this program multiple times, so I assume it's not like a one-time thing. Maybe like the plus operator is a little weird sometimes. Yeah, like sometimes, would this help if but actually we're not using the value here. Okay, you
Try
know what?
while I++ is less than 5.
So every time it checks the condition, it's going to increment it as well. That's kind of weird, but okay. You know what? I think the exact specifics don't matter, but this just shows you how you can have a while loop. So yeah, the important thing, just make sure that your while loops terminate. You know what we'll do next time is we'll look at how to use them to iterate through data structures. Like if you want to go through each element of an array, you can do this, and it works exactly in the same way as what we learned. So I recommend you can check this out on your own time. These are other ways to do loops, like to go through each element of an array, you can do of. For each element of an object, you can do in. So yeah, so we'll quickly touch on loops next time, and then we are going to go into functions. Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining. If you want to review this stuff, especially if you didn't come for the whole lesson, watch our video, and then on our website you can do some practice problems there. Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.